Okay, I'm going to show us how to polish the shaft and maintain the brushless motor to keep it clean and have long life. So first thing, we took the motor, obviously. I don't want to unsolder it and take it completely out of the buggy, so I'm going to be very careful and disassemble it while it's still connected. So the first thing that we want to do is mark the can. I marked it with an X-Acto knife. I'm going to take the end bell off. There is a timing mark here, and then you can use that as a reference too to make sure this has the factory timing. I have not moved the end bell, so we'll reference where that end bell is at on the timing. But as a backup, you can score. I'll just do another mark here. Take the X-Acto and just make a mark that you can line up, and you'll see as we get into this. So there's the end bell, this screw and this screw. So there's the end plate. We'll take that off, and then here's the real plate that has the timing marks on there. We'll set that aside. Look for any shims. There's usually no shims on the Hobbywing motors on this side. You'll see what I'm talking about, the shims. So this shaft now is free to come out. It may be you can kind of see it's trying to pop out. So what I do is I typically will give it a good whack and then grab this guy and pay attention to any shims. Kind of tough. So typically there would be some shims right along here. You may see some shims are in there, so we need to be careful to get those guys out, and typically you just kind of shake it. So there's 1, 2, 3. So we'll set those aside for right now, and then what you can do is take a look at the general condition of the rotor. You'll see there's that scoring mark from the bearing. What I like to do is measure. So there we got about right at 5 millimeters, and I like to measure. So that's 499. Pretty much this rotor is doing good, but there's that wear mark that we're going to buff out with some Flitz polishing compound, because that'll just get worse over time, more dirt and debris. So then I'm going to take the end bell, and I'm just testing the bearings. I'm going to slide this in here, spin it. That's spinning pretty decent. That's spinning pretty nice, smooth. There's no slop there. And I'm going to test the other bearing here. Yeah, that's not spinning so hot. Spinning, it's not seized, but it seems like it should be better. So then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put some of this compound on the rotor shaft. We're just going to polish this guy to get rid of that mark. Now I take some motor spray. It's electrical safe, so it doesn't hurt any electrical components. Just kind of spray it down, clean off all that polishing compound. Wipe this off. Hit it with a little air. So there we see it's much better, much better. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this bearing using that same electrical spray. It's called motor spray. Most of you probably know what it is. It's safe for electrical components, good for cleaning out the bearings. Seems to be spinning a little better there. Give it another shot. I'll do this one while I'm at it. That bearing spins great. This one seems a little, that's marginal, seems. Okay, maybe I'll replace that one here in the future with a different bearing. Now that I've got the can dried out, the bearings fairly dried out, I take some bearing oil, a drop or two, doesn't need much. And then this one's kind of tricky. What I do is I kind of line up the top and let some gravity drops fall on the bearing chase. 2 or 3 drops. Oops, I missed that one there. Then I'll put 1 or 2 on this side. Doesn't need too much, and I probably overdo it. Then I come in here and spin the bearing. Let that oil work into the bearing. That's spinning awesome. Now I take a Q-tip and kind of wipe up any excess oil that kind of, I don't want to get all the oil off, but I kind of want to get some of the excess out that I've had on there. So once we have that, I'm going to reassemble the shims. Oops. And I even like to put a touch oil somewhere around here and here. I clean this out fairly often, so I'm not bashing out on some loose dirt on the racetrack. My racetrack is hard packed, so I don't usually have too big a deal with dirt and clean this out. So I don't mind putting the oil. I know oil attracts some dirt. But so I'm going to slide this guy in very carefully here that the shims don't come off. It's going to, magnets are just going to take it away from me almost. Boom. Make sure that's in there good. And when we put this on, we're going to line up our timing marks. Should just pop in. It's giving me a little fight here. There we go. So these little scoring marks I'm lining up again. We just have to get close right now. We're going to fine tune it. We'll line them up once we get this end plate back on. So now we're going to line up our scoring marks that we made. We'll also take a peek here to make sure that that's lined up, and then we shall lock that in, tighten that fairly tight, snug. So that's spinning very nice. I can feel it's very free, very nice. We know that shaft is clean. It won't hold any. We got rid of any dirt that was in between the bearing and the rotor shaft, causing that sandpaper effect. So that's how you keep good maintenance and longevity. There's no slop. Those rotor shafts will wear where the bearing is at between the friction and the dirt, and that's generally the weakest link in the brushless motor that I've been experiencing. So there we have it. Nicely polished rotor shaft, clean bearings, ready to perform some good lap times on the track. Thank you. Hope this will help.